Hello Simmers! Kumusta? It's Ligaya and welcome to a brand new Let's Play. If you're new here, my name is Mia and what we're going to be starting today is Not So Berry Challenge 3. So this one is created by Simmer MC. So if you don't know what Not So Berry is, it's like a very popular Sims 4 challenge created by Lil Simsy and Always Simming, and it had like a couple of revamping and variants over the years, and eventually we have Not So Berry Legacy Challenge 3, so it includes all the new stuff in the first quarter of 2023, I believe. So yeah, this is very new, very fresh. It was actually created like 2 weeks ago and I am so excited to get started. So if you got to this point, you have probably already seen the trailer, and I just want to say that I have been so inspired by JC. Yeah, the Simmer JC and all the trailers that they've been doing, so I wish I was in the same level as them, but it's what I can do for now with my computer. And yeah, I am still learning, and they're also doing a Not So Berry LP on their channel, and if you haven't watched it, like, you seriously got to, because it's one of my favorite things. Like, currently it's the best, and if you haven't watched it yet, you're seriously missing out. Anyways, let us now go back to the trailer and the story. So this is Malaya Berry, an animal enthusiast and socially awkward teen. So Malaya is a Filipino term for freedom, and this one is actually like created during stream. Like, this sim is created during stream, and someone recommended that name because Malaya, meaning freedom, would mean that even if they're bound to the rules, her and the rest of descendants to come after her are also free. Like, we don't have to complete everything. The point is just to have fun on the short lives that they have. And also, I love the Malaya because this generation is actually soil, so that means we are going to be sporting the color brown all throughout this generation. And in the Filipino, in Tagalog, it means Malaya means freedom. But in my dialect, which is Cebuano, so Malaya means to I forgot the term, to wilt. It's basically used if something is decaying. So I was like so shocked because like of the coincidences. I don't know if the original like commenter meant for this to happen as well. But what's the color when you think that a leaf is decaying? Brown, right? Oh my gosh, they're like their mind is so like, I don't know if it was a coincidence and all that, but still it was. Yeah, I feel like the stars aligned for this challenge. Anyways, Malaya was left on a church in Hanford on Bagley, and as she grew, she gets these errands from various people. One of it is Mrs. Leia Romano. So Leia Romano is a widowed lady who is lonely, and she's just very alone in her house. She isn't visited by any of her children because they had jobs, and thus Malaya's presence was totally welcomed in there. Malaya reminded Mrs. Romano of her own children and the grandkids that she doesn't really see often. And as you can see, this was given by Miss Romano to her, like this entire house, and she only got to see it again right now because Mrs. Romano was too sick to stay in this place, and thus she moved to the city where her children are. They took care of her there. I don't know, we don't exactly know how much they really like took care of her, or they just left her in the care of professionals, which I guess is also good. But still, the love of family must also be present, you know? And yeah, Malaya, when she turned also 15, which was the time Mrs. Romano was also taken to the city, she was transferred to the care of her aunt in Solani. So they did not communicate except for the text messages until Mrs. Romano's eyesight deteriorated, followed then by her death. She didn't even get to say goodbye because no one would answer her calls, and she did not understand why, but it is actually because this house of her and her husband, it was left in Malaya's name, much to the disapproval of Mrs. Romano's children who want this place. They're thinking that they could have sold this and made money, but Mrs. Romano entrusted these lands to her. So she did not know about it, and it is actually Mrs. Romano's attorney who had to read the will to her again because those people really did sabotage her. And just because she's living right here, that doesn't really mean that they're going to be giving up easy. Mr. Feng, Mrs. Romano's attorney, had warned her that her children, like Mrs. Romano's children and her grandchildren, may try to bother Malaya. They may try to buy this lands from her, they may try to lowball her with the pricing, but she responded that she does not want this place to be handed off to them. Malaya loved Mrs. Romano as like her parent, and after witnessing what happened to the house that Mrs. Romano cherished and loved so much in the hands of those people, she definitely wants to ignore them and try her best to bring this place to its former state, and maybe even better. So since this is a challenge, there are rules and requirements that we need to do. So we're on our own now, and what we only have is these lands. Living off it is very difficult, but Malaya is determined to cultivate a respectable farm with livestock, fruit trees, and even some oversized produce to keep the income coming. So Malaya has the country caretaker aspiration to complete, and only 50 simoleons in the entire world, because we already have this house. We are supposed to start with 500, but I just chose 50 because again, yeah, we kind of like have the advantage already because I already gave her the house for the storytelling purposes. And then we have to play the living off the land lot challenge, which I am very nervous about because I haven't done that before. I mean, I did, but it was very hard, so I may just skip it instead. We also need to befriend Patchy and do what she did before when she was still a child, like doing requests from her neighbors. Right now though, all she has to do is about 5, but we can do more if it's not too tough or if we have the time still. Also, on the topic of child, it does not say how many children we should have or she should have, or if she should have a happy or sad love life, so I think that'll just be completely up to her depending on how the story goes. So Gen 2 is Sprout, followed by Blossom, Mist, Lava, Ash, River, Ocean, Sand, and finally Flame. So I'm very excited to start this. If you want to try this challenge for yourself, I will be leaving a link to it on the description. And if you're interested to add some scenes for this save, you can totally do so if you put them on a gallery with the hashtag LegayaNSB. So CC or no CC is totally fine with me. And if you have any gameplay suggestions, ideas for the storyline and such, or if you have any questions, let me hear your thoughts in the comments below, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye guys!